gentlemen, welcome to our 8th annual Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame induction dinner. My name is Bruce Lupke from 880 CKLQ. I'll be your master of ceremonies for the evening. And thank you to our inductees for the march in. Very impressive as always. And now we ask that you join your family and friends at your tables and we'll get our evening underway. Again, I'd like to welcome you to our induction dinner for tonight. We don't have a head table for this evening. We do have several dignitaries that are with us for tonight, and rather than introduce them twice, we'll do that when they speak after dinner. First order of business, I'd like to call on Hall of Fame and Museum Director Steve Bergson to please say grace. Steve.
I would ask you to bow your heads, please. God of abundant and generous love, we ask your blessing upon this dinner and induction ceremony. As we gather to recognize and celebrate the outstanding accomplishments of these athletes, coaches, managers, builders, and teams, we give you thanks for their achievements and dedication to the sport of softball. Accept our thanks for the food before us and the love that never fails. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much, Steve. Dinner is served.
The organization and the people that are being honored here tonight. I've had the opportunity to grow up playing ball all my life, from baseball to softball, fastball. And I know what it does for you as a character, and what it does for you as a person, and what it does for you as far as helping and learning and understanding to work together and how communities work. So I offer you my congratulations, best wishes, another great event, obviously well attended. We do have some of the greatest athletes, I think, in this part of the country. I know there's people from all over Manitoba and parts of Saskatchewan, but I'm always very proud to boast about our southwestern Manitoba athletes. So I wish you well and congratulate everyone on a great night. Thank you.
Now please welcome the Mayor of Brandon, Mr. Dave Burgess, Your Worship.
Thanks very much, Bruce, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to greet you here for the Softball Hall of Fame celebration, and I know we have people not only from Manitoba and Saskatchewan, but right across Canada from what we understand, and it's just a pleasure to be able to host you here tonight, and I know you'll have a great time. Great to be able to celebrate all of the past accomplishments, and of course the friends coming back to this city is very appreciated. I want to point out that I have the pleasure of sitting beside one of last year's Hall of Famers and a city councillor that I work with, Murray Blight. And just if I could hear a little round of applause for our last recipient. He's giving me the thumbs up, but I didn't say the other part yet. He actually got the nomination because he had the record for the most times being hit in the head with a softball. We always wondered what happened to him, but now we found out. Thanks, Murray. Well, we hope you enjoyed tonight. Congratulations to all of the recipients. And I think it's a real testament to the organizers that put this together to see such a large crowd. So pleased to have you. Thanks very much and have a great time.
Bill Finch, the president of Softball Manitoba, is our next speaker. Bill was re-elected to his position at the association's 2008 general meeting. Softball Manitoba has always supported the Hall of Fame and Museum. We're pleased to have Bill in attendance with us here tonight. Bill?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and newly inducted Hall of Famers. It's my pleasure on behalf of Manitoba Softball and myself to offer congratulations to the class of 209 inductees. I'm sure that this is quite an honor and a proud moment to have your accomplishments recognized by your peers and be able to share them with your friends and family tonight. I'd also like to thank the host committee for their hard work in putting this event together, the selection committee, who have the difficult task of selecting the worthy candidates year after year, and the Hall of Fame committee, who continue to recognize and preserve our illustrious past for our future. Once again, congratulations to all the inductees, and enjoy your evening. Thank you.
And I'd like to call upon Hall of Fame President Sharon Martin. She'll be bringing greetings on behalf of the Hall of Fame and Museum Board of Directors. Sharon?
I'm glad Bill came up here with notes because I don't ad-lib very well, so I have to dig them out here somewhere. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. It's nice to see such a large crowd out, and it gives me great pleasure to bring greetings to you this evening from the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame Board of Directors. Taking time each year to acknowledge the accomplishments and or contributions of our athletes, coaches, managers, builders, administrators, officials, teams, and all-around athletes is a vital part of preserving just a small amount of our great softball heritage that we have in our province. This is the second time that our induction banquet has been hosted here in Brandon. I would like to acknowledge the work that Murray Blight and his host committee have done in the preparation for this evening. Thank you, Murray. Having been involved with the grassroots of the banquet itself, I know tonight will be as successful as it was in 2006 when we held it then, and it looks like it's heading in that same direction. Congratulations to all of our individual and team inductees on your outstanding careers and achievements in softball. Your stories are and will continue to be an inspiration for all of us. Again, I would like to congratulate all the inductees tonight, and I would ask everyone to enjoy yourself, have a good time, and renew old friendships, etc. So have a good time. Thank you.
Now, I'd like to ask Murray Blight to come forward. Murray has been chairing the host committee for this induction ceremony. Murray?
Thanks, Bruce, and welcome everybody. And before I go on any further, how about a big round of applause for Bruce Lupke, CKLQ. So, extinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and most importantly, inductees. A year ago this time, I was very fortunate to be elected. I don't know about you, but I get those vibrations and emotions, and I mean, what a night to be able to see some colleagues maybe sometime 40 years ago, whenever the case may be. It's been a long time to be able to reminisce, and I mean, it's just memories for everyone, and that's how I had the opportunity to share with, and some friends here this evening were at my occasion, and it was absolutely just fantastic, is what I can say. But you know, when you say about Murray Blight, I just doesn't just fall in my category, it's we. And I have an honor tonight to introduce our team that made this event and is making this event the way it is. So I'd like to ask them as they get called to stand up, and after that we'll acknowledge. So Vice Chairman Ross Mann, Secretary Brett Turner, Treasurer Carrie Cochran, she couldn't make it this evening, committee members, auction, and President of Westman Softball Association, Carmen Lyle, Awards, Doug Mazook. We have Ross as banquet chairman. Ceremonies and press, Bruce Lupke. Looking after inductees, we'll hear his name later this evening, Wayne Griffin. Memorabilia, Trudy Nay. Program, Combines is his nickname, Don Robbins. Tickets, Bev Workman. And Terry Gunnelson, I think his group of parties went already, but for ticket sales. And anybody else, and I never want to forget this, anybody else that helped out volunteering, please stand up. We want to recognize you as well. So anybody of the committee, chairs, executive that helped in this event. Ladies and gentlemen, that's your team that put this evening on. I'd be remiss not to acknowledge the Keystone Center, Canada Inns, Westman Communications, our media, sponsors, volunteers, and especially you to make this a successful evening. Enjoy, reminisce, and enjoy a game. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murray. Shouldn't thank me yet, I haven't got through the evening. On page 6 of your program, you'll find a list of all our previously honored individual and team members for the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. I would ask all of the individuals that are previous inductees into the Hall of Fame to please stand and be acknowledged here this evening. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for attending and supporting our newest group of inductees. Let's have a round of applause for our previous inductees. Since our last induction dinner last May, we are sorry to say we have lost several members of our softball community, and I would now ask that we take a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you. Board would like to take this opportunity to thank the sponsors who have contributed to the success of tonight's banquet. Please be sure to check out their advertisements found throughout the program. The board also wishes to thank everyone who's purchased the Hall of Fame and Museum through the purchase of lifetime memberships, annual memberships, and other donations. And as well, a big thank you extended to all others who have assisted the board in hosting the induction banquet here tonight. Without your support, it would be very difficult for the Hall of Fame and Museum Board to continue to hold annual induction ceremonies and operate our museum in Portage-La Prairie. Speaking of the museum, it opens this year, May the 11th, and is open through to the month of September. This year's softball exhibits will feature memorabilia from past and current inductees. Remember, the museum is housed within the Fort Lorraine Museum, which also has many wonderful exhibits and displays, and we invite you to take a short drive to Portage-La Prairie and visit our museum. The museum is also looking for memorabilia of just about anything related to softball, equipment, uniforms, jackets, crests, bats, scrapbooks, newspaper clippings, photographs. If you visit the museum this year, you'll find new displays are in place and our new photo gallery continues to expand. As well, Grace Bouchard will be glad to provide a receipt to anyone wishing to make a financial contribution tonight. A donation of $100 or more provides you with a lifetime membership. Individuals, families, and groups who have supported us in this manner are listed on page 4 of your program. Annual individual and family memberships are also available. Something new this year, the tear-off charitable tax receipt attached to the ticket. Be sure to keep it for your income tax next year. On page 5 of your program, information is found on the nomination process. Nominations are reviewed by an independent selection committee, which makes the final decision on the individuals and teams that'll be inducted each year. Once again, members of the committee have done an excellent job. Should you be interested in nominating an individual or a team, please pick up a nomination form found at the back. That is on the table just on this side of the memorabilia exhibit. And as well, you can download a copy of a nomination form from Softball Manitoba's website. Nomination deadline for consideration for 2010 is September 1st. Also on page 1, you'll find information on the operation of the Manitoba Hall of Fame and Museum, Inc., as well as the annual meeting that is tentatively scheduled for September 17th. Anyone interested in serving on the board or working as a volunteer should make their interest known to any board member. Some of you may have already checked out the items in our silent auction and bought your tickets. If you haven't, please take a look at the auction prizes at the back of the hall. Tickets will be on sale during our intermissions tonight. And once the second half of our induction ceremony begins, the silent auction is closed. Winning tickets will be posted at the back, so please be sure to check those before you leave. And I'd also like to inform you that the 2010 induction ceremony and banquet will return to Winnipeg, where it will be again hosted at Canada Inn's Polo Park next year. The date is May 1st of 2010. One other thing, Sandy Black is here. He's our official photographer for the evening, so he'll be taking pictures throughout the evening. And if you're interested in a picture of your inductee or your team, he'll be taking orders for those later on this evening. He'll have information available at the table just on the entrance to my left. Before we begin our induction ceremony, we'll take about a 10-minute intermission. That'll give you some time to replenish your drinks and what have you. And also at this time, we'd like our first of the two teams and our first group of inductees to please come forward to the right-hand side of the stage. That's Margaret Goudreau, Wayne Banman, Barry Braun, Jim Slevin, Wayne Griffin, and Al McPherson, and members and reps of the Brandon Empire Olympia ladies and Sperling girls softball team to come forward and assemble just to my right here on that part of the stage. So we'll take about a 10-minute break and we'll come back and do the first half of our induction ceremony. Thank you. We're still looking for a couple of members of the Sperling team. So if you could come up to the front and to my right. Thank you. Here to formally induct 10 individuals in 3 teams into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. Our inductions tonight will be done in 2 parts. The first half we will induct 5 individuals in 2 teams. You can read about the accomplishments of our inductees in your program. We'll highlight a few of those as we go through the course of our evening. Many of you may not have seen the awards that are presented to the inductees. The individuals and teams receive a large stained glass award in the shape of the province of Manitoba. Each team member receives a smaller stained glass award in the shape of home plate. These unique awards were designed specifically for the Hall of Fame by designer Ruth Brownridge of Portage La Prairie. Inductees also receive a certificate to commemorate their induction into the Hall of Fame, and in addition, permanent plaques with photos and text about the inductees and teams have been produced and will soon join the present members in the Hall of Fame gallery situated at the museum in Portage La Prairie. Laminated copies of the plaques can be ordered, and order forms are available at the memorabilia table or from Hall of Fame board members. Laminated copies are cost is $25 when picked up in Winnipeg, $37 if they have to be mailed. As well, Westman Communications Group is taping this evening's proceedings. DVDs of the evening can be purchased at the cost of $20. You should contact Westman Communications Group here in Brandon for more information on that. Sharon Martin, the President of the Hall of Fame, will be assisting with the presentation of the awards tonight. We intend to keep the ceremony moving as quickly as possible, and we will not be delaying, so we asked the inductees for a photo. If you want a photo of the inductee, please make sure you come forward quickly to get those photos taken. With that in mind, first thing we have to do tonight is take care of some unfinished business. On occasion, we come across individuals who are unable to be contacted at the time of their induction into the Hall of Fame, and such was the situation with our first inductee, Roger Goudreau. The 1959-64 Cool White Seals Manitoba Clothing Senior Men's Team was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2004, and Roger was the catcher for the Cools until 1960. The Cools induction plaque reads as follows: Cool White Seals Manitoba Clothing Senior Men's Team was considered to be one of the province's best from the late 1950s through to the mid-1960s. Seals won the Winnipeg Senior A Men's Fastball League Championship in 58, 59, and 61 and 62 under the banner of Manitoba Clothing, In 1962, the team also won the provincial championship over Portage Mercuries, and again playing as the Cool Seals, the team won its 4th Winnipeg title in 6 years in 1964. The team also traveled in the tournament circuit in search of strong competition and won tournaments in Northern Ontario, Saskatchewan, and North Dakota. Tonight we honor Roger Goudreau as we induct him into the Hall of Fame as a member of the 1959-64 Cool White Seals Manitoba Clothing Senior Men's Team. And I'd ask Roger Goudreau's wife, Margaret Goudreau, to come forward and accept her husband's award. Margaret. Now we will begin with our first team induction. First, the criteria. A team may be inducted into the Hall of Fame for a single season achievement or long-term accomplishment. Any nomination for long-term accomplishment must cover a minimum period of 2 years and a maximum of 6 years. Our first team being inducted tonight is the 1930 to 1932 Brandon Empire Olympias girls softball team. This team was the first high-caliber softball team to come out of Brandon or Western Manitoba. The team would travel by car for hours to get to their games in Winnipeg or Regina, and in those days, of course, the cars had no air conditioning, travel much slower. In the 1930 Intermediate Provincial Finals, the Brandon Empire Olympias lost 3-1 to the St. Vital Rovers. The following year, the outcome was completely different when the Olympias and the Winnipeg Golden Keys took to the diamond in the best-of-5 provincial finals. The brilliant hurling of both pitchers was at the center of the battle in the first doubleheader held at Sherburne Park in Winnipeg, and according to the September 4th, 1931 Brandon Sun, 3 double plays were dished up to thrill the spectators. The Olympias then welcomed the Winnipeg Keys back to Brandon. In the September 8th, 1931 copy of the Free Press, it was noted that Brandon's snappy young Olympias captured the first softball to go to the Wheat City when they took both ends of a doubleheader from the highly touted Winnipeg Golden Keys here today to win the intermediate girls softball crowd. Playing an inspired Brandon ball before a decidedly hometown crowd, the Olympias just managed to edge a 12-10 victory in the final game. The Olympias were full value for their great triumph as they clearly demonstrated their superiority on the field of play. In every department of the game, they excelled their rivals from Winnipeg. In 1932, the Olympias returned to the provincial final, but were unable to repeat as champions. Now let's meet the team members. As each individual's name is announced, we would ask the player or her representative to come forward and receive her award. You may then exit the stage to my left. Please welcome Ron Dietrich, nephew of Brandon Empire Olympias team member Dorothy Dietrich. Margaret Dietrich, who's represented by her niece, Lorraine Swanson. Peggy Doby, represented by her son, Bruce Kennedy. Edna Ellis, represented by, Edna's representative is not here tonight. Josephine Pelchar, who is represented by her sister-in-law, Josephine Pelchar. Stella Shadlock, who's represented here tonight by son Richard Adamanchuk. Coach Woodland. Representative could not be with us tonight. And the following team members were not represented here this evening: Ann Bilecki, Ms. Crane, Edna Johnston, L. Dietrich, N. Dietrich, Ms. Hanwell, E. Harrison, Jean Henderson, O. Hill, Manager A. Kidd, Margaret McGowan, Evelyn Parker, J. Patrick, Estelle Rees, Helen Scott, Mary Shimming, Jean Tocher, Joan Townsend, Mascot A. Thornborough, Jean Barco, Veen Walker, and Annie Wary. I would now like to invite Ricky Wood, Stella Shadlock's granddaughter, to receive the team award and speak on behalf of the 1930 to 32 Brandon Empire Olympia ladies softball team.
Jack, you come up here. Just before I begin, I would just like to say thank you for this honor of having to accept this team award. Just want to say that my dad has his one and only sibling from Powell River, BC here for this night, and her daughter, Brenda Boudre, from Powell River also. And my dad's other two daughters are here, Sherry Adamanchuk from Calgary and Terry Romine from Fargo, just for this special night. On behalf of my late Baba, Stella Shadlock Adamanchuk, I am greatly honored to accept this team award for her softball team. When I was approached by Allan Sharp to accept this award, I had only wished I had knew some stories from these exciting years of ball playing from Baba, and what a feat to have been the very first softball team to win a provincial title in Brandon and area. Those girls must have been so proud of themselves, and so they should have. Baba was a great sports fan all her life. She had Wheat King season tickets until the age of 80, and she never missed a hockey game or a baseball game that was televised. I'm sure she's looking down on this banquet with great pride tonight. So congratulations to the 1930 to 32 Brandon Empire Olympia girls softball team. You will now always be a part of our softball heritage, and I accept this award so that it may go to the Softball Hall of Fame in their honor. Thank you.
According to the local papers at the time, our second team to be inducted was considered to be one of the best softball teams in the southern part of the province. The 1947 to 1952 Sperling girls softball team was a force to be reckoned with. As there were no rural leagues in which to play, the team took in weekend tournaments. After playing a game, it was quite common for the teams to be entertained with a wiener roast and sing-song, or to be served a luncheon on the lawn of someone's home, definitely not something that's seen today. Heading into the 1948 season, the Sperling girls had achieved an outstanding record of 21 victories and 0 losses. The team also participated in the prestigious Red River Valley Tournament in Fargo, North Dakota. After losing a close championship game in 1951 by a score of 3-2, the Sperling girls vowed to return the following year, and in 1952 the Sperling team became the first Manitoban team to win the Red River Tournament, shutting out the Fargo Moorhead Squirrels 14-0. Rumor has it their success may not have been attributed only to their playing ability, but also to their mascot, a horse named Rhubarb. Apparently the horse was given to them by a prominent nightclub owner in Fargo. Now, how a horse can help a softball team is anyone's guess, and the members of the Sperling girls softball team certainly aren't telling. Now let's meet the team members. And again, as each individual's name is announced, we would ask that player or her representative come forward to receive their award, and then you may exit the stage to my left. First inductee, Ethel Arnott, represented by brother Allan Arnott. Harriet Balea, represented by brother Pat. Eileen Kurt. Percy Kurt, the manager, represented by daughter Pat Lecuyer. Doreen Dracus. Marion Dracus. Alice Gardner. Marion Hildebrand. Jean Jackson. Mae Jackson, represented tonight by daughter Leanne Hemphill. Laura McLaren, represented tonight by daughter Arlene Barrick. Joan Nickel, represented by son Paul Anderson. Grace Peckover. Janet Peckover, represented tonight by son Mervyn Cousins. Merle Peckover. Doris Reed, represented tonight by daughter Lila Letkeman. Yvonne Rose. Margaret Skivington. Wilma Skivington. Melva Skivington, represented tonight by husband Bruce Bartley. Francis Squire. Donald Thom, who is the coach, represented tonight by Ed, his son, Ed Thom. And Mona Jaden. The following team members were not represented here this evening: Betty Anderson, Irene Foster, Marion Kazook, Doris Hansley, Janet Homick, and Olga Yuzi. I'd like to invite Mona Jaden to say a few words on behalf of the 1947 to 52 Sperling girls softball team. Mona.
Good evening, everyone. Honored guests and Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame Committee. On behalf of the Sperling girls softball team, I would like to thank you for the honor we are receiving, and congratulations to my teammates and the other inductees. The Sperling girls softball team would like to say a very big thank you to our fans who were spectators and chauffeurs back then and are here to support us tonight in our celebrating this big event. As a team, we recognize Don Tom, our coach and school principal, as the developer of this team. Our summer vacations were spent playing ball at the sports days and country fairs. Many times we would stay to dance the night away after having played ball all day long, and on occasion would arrive home in time to head to the field and harvest. We plan to present the plaque and stained glass to the town of Sperling to display on their sports wall in the community hall at the rink. Last but not least, I would like to thank my daughter and my 2 grandchildren for coming from Vernon, BC to celebrate with me. Thank you.
Our first individual inductee will be in the athlete category tonight. The following words were used to describe our next inductee. It was amazing to see batters flailing away at his amazing changeup. Then he would intimidate batters with his hard rise ball and have them swinging out of their boots with a drop ball that would fall off the table. From 1977 through 1980, Wayne Banman's performance on the mound earned him the recognition of being one of the strongest pitchers in Manitoba. Wayne began his career with the Canada Packers in 1972, and from 1977 through most of the 1980s, he played for teams based out of Steinbach, first with the A&W Steelers. In 1977, his pitching prowess led the Steelers to their first ever provincial title, as well as their first trip to nationals, the first of 5 trips for Wayne to the senior men's national championship. Then pitching for the KK Penner Tiger Paws, he led the team to 2 silver medals at the 1984 and 1986 Western Canadian Softball Championships. In the 1986 Western Canadians, Wayne was honored for surrendering only 3 runs in 5 games and was named the most valuable player of the championships. As we all know, pitchers are very peculiar about their footwear, and as all good pitches begin from the feet up, rumor had it that Wayne practically drove through a flood to reach Fargo so that he could get a certain type of softball spikes. Proper footwear or not, it made no difference. Whichever team Wayne was playing for, his presence on the mound made that team competitive. I would ask Wayne Banman, better known as Wiener or Wayner, to come forward and be inducted into the Hall of Fame in the athlete category.
I guess when I thought, after I had received notice that I was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, I had some thoughts and reflections, and what I realized most when I looked inside myself is how grateful I was for all the different managers and players and coaches and administrators and organizations that had worked really hard, some of them behind the scenes, some of them on the field, just to give me the opportunity to do what I love to do, and that was to throw the ball. And so I feel like this is a huge acknowledgement to them, also to my family who supported me. And you know, if you play softball, basically from May till September is ball time, and so you don't do a whole lot else. You give up summer holidays, and you don't do things like that. And so I'd like to acknowledge my family, all the way from my children to my spouse, Phyllis, and also, I guess it goes further back than that, and that is even as a young child. I don't think I was very old, and my dad was a softball player, and so I remember the smell of his glove and his leather jacket and the feel of the baseball bat, and standing out in the field sucking my thumb with this great big mitt on my left hand, and because he let me come out in the field and stand there. And so it really, my whole experience with softball is very deep in my heart and remains there. And I met a lot of wonderful men and women in the process, and who enriched my life and still continue to. So thank you very much, especially I guess to the 2 people who come to mind most significantly are my dad, who's passed away, and my wife Phyllis. So to all of you who have supported me throughout all this, and for the honor that you've given me here tonight by being here. Thank you very much.
As we all know, having strength up the middle is vital for any successful team. However, sometimes things just don't work out as they should. Let me take you to the 1975 Senior Men's National Championship in Oshawa, Ontario. A pop fly was hit at our next inductee, the St. Vital Ducks shortstop, called "I've Got It." A routine play, right? Well, guess again. He dropped the ball, went to pick the ball up, and proceeded to kick the ball out to the left field fence. All the base runners scored, and as our inductee stated, probably half the bench as well. Fortunately, this was not a common occurrence for Barry Braun. Braun was known for his consistency in the infield, his speed on the base pass, and for his hitting. In 1971, as a member of the Black Knights, Barry was selected as an all-star shortstop at the Nationals. He became the first Manitoban, other than a pitcher, to win all-star status at a senior men's national championship, a feat he duplicated again in 1972, when he is also a runner-up to the batting title with a .615 average. Joining the Winnipeg Colonels for the 1973 and 74 seasons, Braun's skills assisted the Colonels in winning the first ever Western Major Fastball League championship. Overall, Barry competed in 2 intermediate championships, 6 Senior A Fast Pitch championships, 8 Canadian Senior Fast Pitch championships, and 3 Western Canadian Masters Softball championships. Barry retired from ball in 1979, but like many others, he revived his softball career to play at the Masters level from 1985 to 87. In 2007, Barry joined the rest of his Winnipeg Colonels teammates as the team was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Tonight, he enters the Hall of Fame on his own merits as an outstanding softball player. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Barry Braun into the Hall of Fame in the athlete category. Barry.
Good evening. It's a pretty good chance that Al Sharp enjoyed writing up that little story a whole lot more than Cliff Bishop and I did when we were experiencing it. When Sharon Martin called to let me know that I'd be receiving an invitation to attend this evening, I got off the phone and realized I'd probably have to say a few words. And I asked my wife Dorothy if she could remember anything from those really good years that was softball related that I could use. And she said, sure. She said, why don't you tell them about the time when I had to go shopping for my own engagement ring because a last-minute softball game, a back game, showed up on the schedule. I didn't ask her for any more help. I'd like to thank the Manitoba Softball Association for putting on this evening and the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for accepting my nomination. It's a great honor. I'd also like to thank Al Sharp, Lloyd Penner, and Art Penner for taking the time and making the effort to put that nomination together. It's much appreciated. Finally, I'd like to say a thank you to a group of people who I'm pretty sure have the most to do with my being able to be up here tonight. Success in softball for a position player is, as I'm sure Wayne Banman would be happy to tell you, largely dependent on the quality of the team's pitching. I was fortunate over the years to be able to play for a number of teams with very, very good pitching. So, in no particular order, and with apologies if I've missed anyone, it was quite a few years ago, I would like to say thank you to Johnny Ham, Ernie Peters, Ken Peters, John Kalinowski, Ken Dilk, Ralph Entz, Cliff Bishop. For those of you who were involved in softball in the late 60s and through the 70s, you will probably recognize that as pretty much an all-star pitching lineup. The softball years really were very good years. It gave me an opportunity to enjoy a high level of competition, gave Dorothy and myself the opportunity to do some traveling that we might not otherwise have gotten to. We met some interesting people and made some good friends. I'll enjoy the memories, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Our next inductee was an all-around athlete playing basketball, hockey, baseball, and softball in Brandon. In fact, he is known as the father of the Brandon Cloverleafs baseball team, as he was an original member of the team and spent countless hours working behind the scenes to keep the team running. However, tonight we are here to celebrate Jim Slevin's accomplishments in softball. Jim played highly competitive fastball from 1950 to 1971. He first played with the Brandon Scory Stylists and then the Brandon A&F Vets. For those of you who have played with Jim soon learned he had a very fiery and competitive nature. Perhaps this short anecdote will explain it. It was early in the season and everyone was working out the kinks. In this particular game, Frank Paquette, Jim's teammate in right field, threw a strike from right field right over Slevin's head and into the screen. Not being impressed, Jim picked up the ball and threw it right back at Paquette, yelling, "Throw the ball properly." Being a student of the game, it was common to see Jim charge out from behind the plate and field errant pegs while backing up first base. And because of his hustle, Jim was also known to tag out an occasional runner as the runner rounded first. Jim's competitive spirit was second to none and influenced and inspired his teammates. Under his leadership, the ANAF Vets competed in 2 Western Canadian Championships. Switching to the game of slow pitch, he came out of retirement in 1996, playing down south during the winter with the Mud Hens, and upon returning to Manitoba, playing with the Carefree Getaway team. Jim continued to win numerous championships. Prior to tonight's induction, Jim was inducted into the Hall of Fame as a team member of the 1953-57 Brandon ANAF Vets Senior Men's and the 1959-64 Cool White Seals Manitoba Clothing Senior Men's teams. Ken Corby calls Jim the most complete fastball player of his era. Would you please welcome Jim Slevin into the athlete category in the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. Jim?
Unfortunately, I have to have glasses to read. First of all, I'd like to thank the Hall members for voting me into the Hall of Fame. As I previously said, it's a great honor. I want to personally thank Frank McKinnon over there, Frank, for nominating me for this honor. That's 2 I owe you, Frank. Maybe I'll nominate you for the Hall of Fame or something like that. I'd like to thank my family for coming tonight. My wife Cynthia, who's supported me all these years and all the times I've played. My daughters and their husbands, Debbie and Rolf, Becky and Gary, Jamie from Saskatoon, my brother Patty and Lise from Winnipeg. I'd like to say congratulations to all the other inductees, especially Stevie Clark. I had the honor of playing with Stevie in Brandon here, and he was indeed a fine ball player and a pleasure to play with. I'm glad to see he finally made it into the Hall of Fame. It's also appropriate that the dinner is tonight in Brandon, because this is where it all started for me back in the early 1950s with Scory's Cleaners. It happened to be in the first game I played in senior ball. I was playing against the Army, Navy, and Air Force vets in those days, and Stevie Clark was playing against me. And I thought, well, guy is taking a lot of liberties off first base, and I'm going to get that son of a gun. And I learned a real lesson then. I threw the down to first base to get him, and Stevie was sliding into second base. He gets up and he smiles at me. And said, I never threw behind a runner after that. A highlight of my playing career was I was very lucky, as other people have mentioned, to playing with great players and good managers. I have in the Army, Navy, and Air Force vets, several of the fellows are inducted into the Hall of Fame. Tommy Towns, Ed Kerlick, and now Stevie Clark, and Ward Collier. In the Keyholes, we had a great manager by the name of Claude Gagnon, who really knew his ball, and it was a pleasure to play with him. We had some great ball players, Sir Cam Bouchard, Freddie Taylor in the Hall of Fame. And finally, a second career, or a third career, with the Carefree Getaway Fastbacks from Winnipeg. We went on to 2 World Championships, went on to 6 World Championships, but we're lucky to win 2 in 2004 in Vegas in the 70-plus division, and in 2008 in Phoenix in the 75-plus division. Ross McIver is our manager, and he's here tonight. I want to thank you, Ross, for all the support you gave me over the years. Also, I was very lucky as a catcher to catch for some great pitchers. In the Army, Navy, Air Force vets, Ward Collier is in the Hall. He was a fantastic pitcher. I know that as a rookie, catching him was a great honor, and he is probably well known for the 36-inning game he pitched in Winnipeg in the playoffs. He pitched the whole 36 innings, but he lost it. The other team used 5 pitchers. So Ward is in the Hall of Fame, but it was a real pleasure to catch for him. Also, Kiewel's team, we had great pitchers, and Fred and Bobby Taylor, they're twins, and George Drucksmith. Just a couple of things. I don't like personal statistics, but of all the teams I played in the years, I would say the 1962 Kiewel's was the best team that I played with. We played in 25 tournament games that year in Northwestern Ontario, Regina, Minot, and we won 24 and tied 1, so we didn't lose a game that year. We also won the provincial championship that year too. The best game that I ever played in was in Atikokan in 1962 in the tournament there. We played in the semifinals against a team from Minnesota, Duluth. They were the Minnesota champions the previous year. We won 17 innings, and we beat them 2-1. And the guy that scored the winning run sitting over there, Cam Bouchard from Kiewel's. I guess the highlight of my career, I played a lot of great games and a lot of great teams, was the 70-plus championship in Vegas where we won the Worlds. It was indeed a great honor to finally win something like that, and I really appreciate all the guys I played with. But thanks for your patience and listening to all this dull statistics. But thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Just got to change the batteries in the mic for the TV. All right. Our next inductee is being inducted into the Hall of Fame as a builder. Moving to Brandon in 1967, Wayne Griffin spent the next 11 years playing competitive fastball. From 1967 through 1976, our inductee played with a number of Brandon teams, the Simplot Blues, the Brandon Merchants, and the Mid-City SOT. In 1977, Wayne hung up his glove and cleats and stepped behind the plate to begin his 30-plus years of umpiring. As we all know, there are always stories being told about umpires, and there are certainly some out there involving Wayne. One of the goals for umpires is to go to a national championship and umpire behind home plate at nationals. It is here that they get to show their skill with good calls and sharp, crisp signals. Wayne was no exception when it came to this goal, and at one of his first nationals, Wayne, also known as Griff, aced a safe call at home and made the picture-perfect safe signal, but then threw his indicator right through the screen while signaling safe. This little mishap didn't slow him down, as he was asked to don the blue for 4 national championships, 1 Canada Summer Games, and 6 Western Canadian softball championships. Wayne also took on the duty of developing and evaluating other officials. He began instructing Softball Canada's Level 1 umpire certification clinic, and sometimes even went a little beyond the call of duty. When I was unable to attend a Level 1 clinic when I started umpiring, my first official umpire training session came sitting across from Griff at my kitchen table for an afternoon. Wayne served 5 years as umpire-in-chief and an additional 8 years as deputy umpire-in-chief for the Western Manitoba region. He also took on the responsibilities of coaching a youth team, serving as umpire-in-chief and serving 1 term as president of Brandon Youth Softball. In 1988, Wayne was the recipient of the City of Brandon's Volunteer Award for his dedication to sports, and in 2000, Softball Manitoba awarded him the HSRS Developmental Umpire of the Year Award. Wayne was also recognized by Softball Canada in 2001 when he was inducted into the Canadian Indicator Club. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome an individual who's been active as a builder at the league, provincial, regional, and national level, Wayne Griffin, to be inducted into the builder category. Wayne?
As everybody will know, I don't say anything unless I absolutely have to. I don't have any notes because I didn't know what Bruce was going to say. But start with, I would like to thank Murray Blight for telling me, he says, put a resume together, we'll get you into the Hall of Fame. So I go down and I put everything down on a piece of paper, and he sends it back to me and he says, you got to kick it up a notch. He says, you got to make yourself look good. I thought, well, how am I going to make myself look good? And the last thing I want to do is toot my own horn. But I jazzed it up a little bit and didn't make any lies, but I thank Murray for convincing me to do so. I'd like to thank the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame Selection Committee for selecting me. I'm very humbled and very honored to accept this inductee recipient, I guess is the right word. I got a couple of stories I must tell before I depart though. While I was umpiring, there was a game where one team was kind of getting their butt kicked a little bit. So the coach comes up and he says, I said, what's the problem? He says, throw me out of the game. I said, pardon? He says, throw me out of the game. I says, why? He says, well, my team's not playing well. He says, if you throw me out, maybe they'll start playing better. I says, no. He says, why? I says, if I got to stay and watch this, so do you. The other amusing thing that happens with umpires and Jerry Howard and Peter Dick and everybody that's ever been into the softball teaching and mentor program, our goal is to keep ball players on the diamond. We don't want anybody having to leave early. And I will say, without a word, there's only one person that I ever threw out of a ball game. The rest of them got themselves thrown out. On one occasion, and it was actually Active Muffler was playing against Clan William and Diamond 3 at Curran Park. And you gotta bear with me, Active Muffler is on the first base side. Jimmy Richards is up to bat. He's a left-hand batter. The ball comes in, and I can't remember who pitched it, but he clipped Jimmy Richards on the arm, and so I sent him down to first base. Greg Rabe was playing third base for Active Muffler. He comes in, he wanted to make sure that the ball had actually hit Jimmy's arm before it hit the bat, and I said, yeah, that's okay. Rich Gregoire, who was coaching Active Muffler at the time, decided he'd better find out to make sure everything was kosher too. So he was happy. As he's going back, out of the dugout comes Rich's father, Riel, who was the Active Muffler bat boy. And he's starting to make sure that I am going to keep my next appointment with the optometrist. So I say, Rael, I says, back into the dugout. And he starts chirping some more. I says, Rael, in the dugout. He says, you can't do anything to me. He says, I'm only the bat boy. I says, Rael, I says, here's the facts. Number one, you were in the dugout. Number two, you were in uniform. And number three, you are gone. There was, to follow up on the story, Rael never talked to me for 5 years. And after that, all he would tell everybody when I was around, he says, that's the guy that threw a bat boy out of the ball game. But Bruce said I could have as much time as I wanted to, so I'm going to do it. Over the course of the 40-some years that I've been in Manitoba, and as Bruce said, I'm a transplant from Sandwich, Saskatchewan, and I would like to thank my sister and my brother and their spouses who came from Saskatchewan this weekend to be with me, and they're sitting back there at table number 55, I believe. Thank you, guys. And over the course of all these years, the great ball players that I had the opportunity to play against, to umpire with, to help on committees, and do what I could to make this game of softball the best game that there is to play. I thank you all very much, and in closing, to quote an old friend of everybody's, thanks for the memories.
Our next inductee has worn the mantle of coach-manager for over 4 decades. Switching to fast-pitch softball in 1968, his addiction to this great game began, and in 1969, as a second-year player with the Clan William Grays, our inductee took on the added role of coach-manager and hasn't looked back since. Al McPherson did it all. He played first base, he pitched, he caught, he played field, and he hit. He became one of Manitoba's first certified Level 1 coaches in 1977. It was through his determined effort and leadership that the Grays became a force to be reckoned with while playing in the Minnedosa Fastball League and then later in the Brandon Centennial League. From 1971 through the 1973 seasons, the Grays were the toast of the league, losing only 1 league game. During the Grays' early years, playing over 90 games a season was a common occurrence for this dedicated group of ball players. Under Al's tutelage, the Grays won silver at the 1972 Senior C Provincial and then gold in 1973. It was not until 1987 that the Grays returned to provincial play and with a tremendous team effort, won gold again. In the late 80s and early 90s, the Grays were fighting for their survival, and Al was kept busy finding players who would be able to strengthen the team. During the 2001 provincials, the Grays picked up Bev Workman to aid in the pitching. Al's sage advice to his team at that time was give the ball to Workman, and another gold medal came their way. In all, the Grays won 5 provincial titles in 1973, 1987, 1999, 2001, and 2004, and were runners-up in 1972, 1980, 1998, and 2005. As coach-manager for the Curran Park Classics, mostly made up of former Grays, his team won the Manitoba Masters Provincials in 2003. Throughout his career, Al missed only 10 games, had 175 pitching victories, and received numerous all-star selections as a player and as coach-manager. In addition to his time on the ball field, Al served 6 years with the Brandon Commercial Fastball League, the last 2 as its president. In addition, he served 2 years as a member of Softball Manitoba's executive. Al had talked about retirement in 2007, but he was still found on the diamond in 2008 with the Grays at the Western Canadian Senior B Championship here in Brandon. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome our inductee in the coach category, Al McPherson, a true Gray for over 40 years.
As Bruce and most of you know, I'm a man of few words. I'd like to thank Don Robbins and Murray Blight for helping put this together and getting my nomination. I have a lot of teammates that I'd like to thank. Some of them I played with for well over 20 years, one of them for 30, one for 29. Those are the guys that made all this possible. And I'd like to thank a special woman in my life, Mary Ann. And other than that, thank you very much. Have a great evening. It's been a treat.
That brings to an end the first half of our induction ceremony. We're going to take a short intermission to allow the host committee to get our final inductees and the reps ready. Ask Elaine Horton, Dave Shyiak, Bev Workman, Deb Baker, Bev Neufeld, and the members of the Brandon 7-Up fastball team to please assemble at the end of the stage to my right. And would you please give one more round of applause to our first 5 inductees and our first 2 teams. We'll take about a 10-minute break. Introduce our third and final inducted tonight. It's the 1965 to 1969 Brandon 7-Up Fastball team. The Brandon 7-Up Fastball team was formed around a nucleus of friends who got together for weekend tournaments. Originally known as the Blues, the team joined the Brandon and District League in 1963 and picked up Blackwood Beverages as their sponsor. From that time on, the Blues became known as the Brandon 7-Ups. There were a lot of stories circulating about the Brandon 7-Up team. It has been said that their pitcher often learned the error of his ways when his three big outfielders threw stones at him if a batter happened to walk. Is that right, Bill? During one of the 7-Up tournament games, an umpire made a horrible call. One of the fans, deciding enough was enough, walked out of the stands with a homemade pie and shoved it into the umpire's face. And who can forget the home run hit to the 1966 Brandon District Fastball League Final, which was disallowed when Dan failed to touch third base and was called out. Despite all these somewhat comical events, the 7-Ups were soon to be the team to beat. Their stellar years began in the 1965 season and lasted throughout the 1969 season. Spanning parts of two fastball seasons in the mid-1960s, they had a record of 27 straight tournament wins. Because of their dominance, the 7-Ups often entered tournaments under the assumed name of the Chater Chipmunks. For 4 consecutive years, the 7-Ups won the Brandon and District League titles, and during this time frame, they received 22 All-Star Awards and 4 Most Valuable Player Awards. In 1969, after winning the league title, the team went on to compete in and win the Manitoba Intermediate A Men's Championship. Because of their dedication and skill, the Brandon 7-Up team became recognized as the forerunners to Senior A Fastball returning to Brandon. Friendships started the team, and 40-plus years later, the friendships still remain strong. Now let's meet the members of the Brandon 7-Up Fastball team. Bob Ash. Mel Beattie. Fred Becker, represented by son Grant Becker. Ray Buckaluk. Ray Butterworth. George Dinsdale, represented by his wife, Pat Dinsdale. Bill Edwards. Dan Flick. Bill Houston. Dennis Johnston. Gwyn Jones. Harvey Jolseth. Gordon Lacamont, represented by wife Marion. Dick Lahi. Ken Moore. Jim Murray. Bob Panino. Rod Ungarian. Gary Van Buskirk. Don Woods. Following team members were not represented here this evening: Gary Lombard, Elgin McCann, Ron Bride, Jerry Dennis, Dan Fournier, Chuck Nelson, Bob Portlance, Sam Popovich, Doug Ravoy, and Dave Ronke. I'd like to ask Mr. Bob Ash to come forward and say a few words on behalf of the Brandon 7-Up men's fastball team. Bob?
Thank you. My first official duty representing this group of people is to offer our congratulations to all the other inductees and teams that were inducted this evening. It's quite an impressive group. I would like to thank Jim Murray. He's the one that has counseled me into my speaking techniques tonight. He said the first thing you do when you get up there is just look at the audience and think they're all in their underwear. Jimmy, it's quite a sight. It was interesting when they asked me to speak tonight because in my playing days, I was the third, or part of the third of the playing team that never had much input, verbal input into the operation of the team. We were asked oftentimes to pick up pitching errors, infielders miscues. We were directed directionally, move over there, come on in, go out. And we were able to handle that quite well. One of the statistics with this group of people was that was very impressive was the fact that we went 27 tournaments without a loss. Now, I would like to explain to you what happened in the 28th tournament. We were playing in the final game, and it's my best of my recollection. I'm not just quite sure of who we were playing against, but they were pretty good. And it was the bottom of the 7th inning. We were ahead by 1 run. There was 2 out. There was a runner on second base, and their best batter was at the plate. Our decision makers, of course, the infielders, decided, much to the chagrin of the outfielders, to pitch to this batter. You know the rest of the story. One swing of the bat, we had a pretty good group of outfielders. Didn't matter. We couldn't Shanghai that ball. The game was over. We lost. 28th tournament victory was down the drain. That's a fact of life, and you have to lose. But the consequences for this team was dire. We were a non-profit organization, and all our profits were poured back into next week's enjoyment. that's not the only story. The infielders wanted their equal share. Enough of the tomfoolery. I would like to acknowledge some people that were very influential to this group of people. My first recognition is to Norma Edwards and her counterpart Eleanor Reeves for putting together the statistics and forwarding it to the nominating committee. The next group, of course, is the nominating committee for looking at the statistics and deeming them appropriate. We appreciate that and thank you very much. I've got three more thank yous before I sit down, and they're almost general in sport, but with our group, the significant others played a major part of this group. They looked after the kids, they washed the ball uniforms, and the white sanitary hoses, if you remember those, they were quite an issue in my family about how we should look after either patching them or throwing them out. We often asked them to celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, and yes, even honeymoons at community ball tournaments. So they deserve a big thank you. My next thank you go to the men in blue, and men and women in blue, I'm sorry. It's very appreciative of our team that these people would give us their time day in and day out for we could enjoy what we enjoyed doing. So they deserve a big round of applause from all people in softball. Now, these people weren't harassed often by our team, and if they were, it was the infielders. And I'm told that even away from the ball diamond, they're pretty good people. So the last thank you goes to the sponsors. People in sport are very fortunate to have people and convince people to spend their money on our activities and enjoyment. I would like to at this time acknowledge our sponsor, 7-Up, and that was Mr. Fred Becker, the late Mr. Fred Becker, and I'd like to acknowledge that through his lovely wife Rose, who is with us tonight. Thank you very much, Rose. It's amazing that we could convince Fred. Go ahead, it's well deserved. And we had a discussion on how we convinced Fred to sponsor our ball team, and everyone had their opinion. Of course, I have mine. And I wasn't there at the time when the arm twisting took place, but I know that Fred had some discussion, and then he looked at the talented group of outfielders that were there, and it was no doubt that's why he joined and agreed to sponsor our team. I'm going to close this evening by and someone stole the last page, that was Bill. Now that I've let you know where the strength of 7-Up rested, and that was on the far perimeter of the ball diamond, I would like to thank you for your indulgence this evening. I hope that by the end of the evening, everyone is a 400 hitter and no one made an error, and thanks again.
I've always known Bobby Ash to be a gentleman, even though he was an outfielder. We on the infield carried the team. Don't let anybody else tell you different.
For over a decade, fans in the Brandon area had the opportunity to enjoy the play of our next inductee on both the baseball and softball fields. His illustrious career spans both games, and we'd be remiss not to note his baseball accomplishments. Recruited from Windsor, Ontario in 1947, Steve Clark played for the Brandon Grays and then from 1951 to 56 with the Brandon Cloverleafs. Stories about him are almost endless, especially with his fearless base stealing and blinding speed. In 1956, the year Steve retired from baseball, the Brandon Cloverleafs honored Steve with a Steve Clark night at his last playoff game. The Brandon Sun wrote, "Steve stole the show. He led off the night with an infield hit, stole second base, on the next pitch stole third, and then crossed the plate with the winning run on a well-executed squeeze play, giving the Cloverleafs a 3-2 win in their fourth consecutive CMBA championship." In 1986, Steve Clark became an honored member of the Manitoba Baseball Honor Society. He started to play softball with the LaSalle Grill men's fastball team in 1950, and from 1954 through the 1957 season, Steve enjoyed an amazing fastball career with the Brandon ANAF Vets. The fleet-footed and gifted outfielder thrilled and entertained fans everywhere he played. He had the speed to outrun a fly and make a great over-the-shoulder catch. During the time spent with the ANFF Vets, Steve was a dominant factor in leading his team to 4 provincial intermediate titles and 2 silver medals at the Western Canadian Championships. 2 current Hall of Fame members, Tom Town and Cam Bouchard, stated, "It was almost impossible to get Steve Clark out at bat because he was so fast. In fact, there were many times when he circled the bases on a well-placed bunt." In addition to playing, you could also find Steve umpiring baseball and softball and taking time to serve on the Brandon Centennial League executive. For over 30 years, Steve was involved with the sport of softball. Unfortunately, this amazing ball player passed away in 1987. In 1989, the city of Brandon honored the late Steve Clark by naming their #1 softball diamond at Curran Park the Steve Clark Field. His daughter, Elaine Horton, is here tonight to accept her father's award. Elaine?
You want me to do it?
I'll do it.
Come on. We'll both do it.
On behalf of Steve's family, I'm his eldest grandchild. This is his grandson. We're honored and thrilled to be here tonight. And I wanted to just thank, we're very fortunate to sit at a table with some of Grandpa's old ball players, and it's wonderful to hear some of the stories about him. I unfortunately never got to see him play. But myself, I got to hear, he umpired me at that same diamond that the city named after him when I was just a girl of probably 12. And it gives me great honor to be up here tonight, and thank you on behalf of our family for this award and this honor.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We have a bit of a special announcement to make tonight on behalf of the Westman Softball Association. Carmen?
Thanks, Bruce. Carmen Lyle is the current president of the Westman Softball Association, and she is a special honor to do tonight, but I'd like to give you a little bit of information first. As previously mentioned, in 1989, the city of Brandon honored the late Steve Clark by naming their #1 softball diamond at Curran Park the Steve Clark Field. Now, most of you who live here in Brandon, you now know that Curran Park is no longer home to any softball, but the Steve Clark Field will still continue to exist. It gives me great pleasure to acknowledge the Westman Softball Association, who have taken it upon themselves to rename Diamond number 4 at the River Diamonds as the Steve Clark Field. On behalf of all softballers here tonight, I would like to congratulate you, Carmen, on taking this initiative and continuing to preserve a piece of the softball history here in Brandon. The picture that Carmen has is a picture of the actual sign for the Steve Clark Field, and it's my understanding that that sign will be replaced up at the River Diamonds. Carmen, if you'd like to present the award, please.
Thanks, guys.
Starting out as a right fielder for the Workman senior men's fastball team in 1956, Dave Shyiak began his career in softball, a career that has seen him play in all Canadian provinces and territory, as well as 13 American states. In 1964 and 65, as a member of the Portage Bisons, Dave made back-to-back trips to the Senior Men's Nationals, and while completing his master's degree at UND in Grand Forks, he played for the Devils Lake Knights of Columbus team and won 3 state championships and participated in the U.S. Regionals. In 1973, he was asked to join the newly formed Winnipeg Colonels, a member of the Western Major Fastball League. Wayne Parks, a writer for the Winnipeg Free Press at the time, wrote that Dave Shyiak did a tremendous job behind the plate for us tonight. Shyiak was exceptionally brilliant, picking off 4 runners attempting to steal second. For the 1974 and 75 seasons, he also served as the Colonels' captain. 2 years ago, in 2007, Dave was inducted into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame as a member of the 1973 Winnipeg Colonels. Taking up residence in Brandon in 1978 and continuing throughout the 1985 season, he competed with numerous Brandon and surrounding area teams. Upon reaching master's age, Dave joined many of his former Colonels teammates and competed at the Western Canadian Masters Championship, winning 1 gold, 1 silver, and 1 bronze. When the opportunity arose, Dave made the switch to slow pitch, starting to play with the Winnipeg Sports Traders in 1999 and the St. James Canadians 55-plus team in 2003. He continued to win provincial and Western Canadian championships. Now, many of us in attendance tonight have had what I would call a senior moment, and things have not turned out as well as we would have liked. Well, out mountain biking a few years ago, Dave wiped out on a gravel road. Besides feeling slightly foolish, he also broke his collarbone. The really tough part about Dave's little mishap meant he was unable to return the diamond for several months. Fortunately, Dave still continues to enjoy the game of softball, a game that began many decades ago. Tonight, we welcome Dave Shyiak into the Softball Hall of Fame in the athlete category.
$456 people in this room. It is an honor, it is a privilege, it is humbling and gratifying to walk into a room of that magnitude, to be recognized and realize that you have played with, against, or crossed paths with over 80% of the people in this room, the who's who of softball. What an honor and what a privilege. And it all started in 1956 for a 12-year-old boy who was asked to play with the Rorton senior team. Now, go back to the 50s. When they wanted to hide you, hope the ball was never hit to you, where did they put you? Right field. I started my career as an outfielder. batted leadoff with specific instructions. Look, you're a kid. They'll walk you. Don't swing at the ball. That lasted until the second game. And I'm thinking, I can hit this cunny thumber. Cunny thumber being the term that you use for then figure-8 pitchers. Sure enough, pitch is thrown. Wooden bats then. I closed my eyes and I swung. Fuck! What a sound. The crack of the ball hitting the bat. Put my head down and gum-booted it for first base. Opened my eyes to make sure that I got to first base. Noticed something in my peripheral vision. Looked over. Lo and behold, the ball is following me. You know, one of those squibblers? That ball wiggled and jiggled its way between and around the first baseman, the second baseman, stopped right on the line, and I was safe at first base. My first official at bat, and I got a hit. What? You thought I was going to tell you that I hit a home run? Fat chance. Fast forward, 1960s, go to Portage the Prairie. My first game, I'm catching. And I notice a diminutive second baseman who stood about 5 feet 2 with his hands in the air. Fiery attitude, competitive, the will to win. And I thought, I was in awe of this gentleman. And I made up my mind then and there, those are the characteristics that I wish to emulate. And to this day, I thank Hall of Famer Peter Duitz for passing those characteristics on to me. Winnipeg Senior League came calling. Peter Duitz. Winnipeg Senior League came calling, and a great storyteller and a swapper of lies had me in awe. I signed with the Molson Canadians because this guy convinced me. They were playing a game in Red Lake, Ontario, Balmertown. Ball was hit into the outfield, over the outfielder's head, and rolled into a drift of hogs. One of the pigs picked up the ball and swallowed it. I kid you not. The runner circles the bases. The outfielders are throwing up their hands. Everybody's calling for a ruling. Umpires get together. Home plate umpire comes back, and he's giving this signal. Home run. The fielding team manager comes, hey, ump, what's going on here? At the very worst, that's got to be a ground rule double. That's interference. The pig swallowed the ball. Umpire says yes, and therefore we have ruled it an in the pork home run. True story. Winnipeg Colonels came next. And again, I have an affinity for good storytellers and a swapper of lies. And so I had an opportunity to play with one of the most colorful people that I've ever known, and a very great friend, Leo Bouchard, who was never at a loss for words, except we're playing in Spokane, 1986, in the World's Fair. Leo Bouchard is coaching third base. Winnipeg Colonels runner rounds third, comes into home. Home plate umpire says, "You're out!" Leo Bouchard says, Mr. Umpire, I want to appeal that call," as Leo does. "I want you to ask the third base umpire. He had a better view of that ball." Umpire says, "Okay." And the home plate umpire is a little white Caucasian fellow. He saunters over to the third base, Suma-looking guy who's Afro-American. They talk, and all he moves is his head a little bit, eyes. The little umpire comes back to home plate. He says, "Coach, your runner at home was out, and that ruling is coming to you in black and white." First time I've ever seen Leo lost for words. For 18 years, I had the privilege of playing with, coaching with, and being associated with Whitey and Flo Westcott, and I thank them for that opportunity. He remains my friend to this day. In spite of playing together, he had me kicked out of a game. Whitey did. We're playing in Saskatoon, a very important game. I'm coaching third base. He's the bench boss. We had a particularly annoying umpire, Peter Dick, Jerry Howard, Griff. You probably don't believe this, but we did have a particularly annoying umpire who kept calling illegal pitch, illegal pitch, and our pitcher, Cliff Bishop, is going to get turf because he's getting angrier and angry, and I know he's going to say something when he does. The umpire is being defiant. He's going to turf him out of the game. So I call time, walk up to the umpire, very polite, as I always am. Mr. Umpire, I said, can our field manager, Ron Westcott, get kicked out of this game for what he's thinking? And he says, what? Why do you always have to repeat yourself with an umpire? It's like double indemnity. You've done 2 wrongs when you have to repeat yourself, but you always do. So I said, Mr. Umpire, I says, can our field manager, Whitey Westcott, get kicked out of this game for what he's thinking? He says, no. I says, good, because he thinks you're an a-hole. You're out of here. True story. I've had the privilege also of switching to that other game where they lob the ball to you. And I want to thank Patty Slevins, Lise Lacombe, Senitians from Winnipeg for involving me in that game. And I have to tell you folks, I got back Wednesday, Gene and I did, after playing 142 games in the last 3.5 months and thoroughly enjoying the game. And it was all made possible because they got me involved in a game that I said I would never play. It's for old people. Well, I became old. I want to congratulate the inductees, present, past, and future. I extend my personal thanks to my nominators, Murray Blight and Larry Dewis. I also thank all the friends for their support. Many of them are in attendance tonight, and particularly family members who are also present, Walter and Audrey Shyiak, Pat and Lawrence Benegupka, for their support. And finally, for her support in being my sounding board, a special thank you to my best friend, Gene and Gary. Thank you.
As we all know, pitchers and batters have always battled for supremacy on the ball field, pitchers looking for that strikeout and hitters wanting to knock the ball out of the park. Such was the case for our next inductee, Bev Workman. In the final game of the Minot tournament, Bev was pitching against the Rempel brothers from Saskatoon, who at the time were the defending Canadian champions. Bev was working hard to keep his pitchers inside, and the Rempels were hitting some awesome long foul balls. Finally, their big cleanup batter was up. He hit the ball so high and so far that it cleared the cars behind the fence, cleared the road, and ended up hitting some houses well away from the diamond. Fortunately, it was foul. When everybody breathed another sigh of relief, Bev's third base teammate came over to Bev on the mound and asked, "Do you think they're serving peanuts on that flight?" Let's go back a few years and see how Bev's amazing softball journey began. Like all young boys, Bev played hardball growing up, but while playing softball for Minto School in grade 8, he began pitching windmill and has never looked back. In 1973, he began pitching for the Pringles Pirates of Boissevain, leading them to the Senior D Championship in 1975. Bev pitched all the games and went undefeated throughout that championship. Looking back, it was a clear indication of Bev's outstanding skill on the mound and was a hint of his future. He joined the Minto Mustangs in 1977 and became a pitching giant for the Mustangs for the next 20 years. With Bev on the mound, the Mustangs became perennial league champions from 1979 to the late 1990s. Our inductee has been the recipient of numerous MVP, top pitcher, and top player awards in league, provincial, and regional championships. At the 1985 annual awards reception, Softball Manitoba presented Bev with the Wayne Gilbert Memorial Award. In 1988, he led the Mustangs to a gold medal at the Western Canadian Intermediate A Championships. Bev threw 48 innings and gave up only 5 runs throughout the tournament, and for his phenomenal efforts, Bev was chosen MVP and top pitcher. Besides his work on the diamond, Bev was also recognized by the Manitoba High School Athletic Association as its male coach of the year for his outstanding badminton teams at Reston Collegiate, where he taught physical education. He is also runner-up for the H.L. Crawford Award presented by the Brandon Sun. Ian Hamilton, the Brandon Sun sports writer, wrote in 1988, You can have all the power hitters in the world in your fastball lineup, but if you don't have the pitching, you're not going anywhere. Luckily for them, the Minto Mustangs have Bev Workman. These words were written in the middle of Bev Workman's amazing fastball career, a career that covered league, tournament, provincial, Western Canadian, and international games. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Bev Workman into the Softball Hall of Fame. Bev?
I know the thing that you're all thinking right now, boy, I would like to be up on that stage right after Dave Shyiak. I kind of knew this was going to happen. Hardly a dynamic speaker. Anyway, I'd like to congratulate all the other inductees this evening. Very well deserved. You think of all the accomplishments the people have had over their careers, just amazing. Also like to thank the Hall of Fame board, not only for choosing me, but for all the work they do year-round to put this event on and keep the museum going. As well, Murray and his host group here to put this evening on, and thanks to Murray for putting together my nomination. I'm the one receiving the award, but it's not without the support of many people. Going back, I can remember leaving on weekends and weeknights to play ball, and my parents were working on the farm, and my brothers were working on the farm, and I really appreciate the fact that I was able to go. I didn't know where it was going to lead, but I really like softball. Also to my brothers, I have 3 brothers, we lived on the farm, so we used to have pickup games all the time. And my one brother especially, Pat, he was my catcher, so to speak. We had a shed out by the house that was supposed to stop the ball. Most of the time he was out in the Caraganas trying to find it. So it takes a long time to develop a pitcher. To my wife, Kathy, all the weekends I was away. Wayne mentioned that, you know, when you play ball, you're away every weekend. That's your vacation, that's everything, and I really appreciate her chasing the kids at the tournaments or being at home with them. And for my boys, vacation meant dad at a ball tournament, hotel, pool, and a cooler. And they've often said to me, please Dad, no more bologna buns. So I appreciate all of that. I never took them on a vacation, so they didn't know what they were missing. It all goes back to the teams I played for, gave me all the support. I finished off my career with Clan William. You couldn't play with a finer group of guys. It was tremendous playing with them. Most of my career was played with Minto. In case you don't know where that is, it's 30 miles south of Brandon. Very small community, but very active in ball for a few years. One thing, they gave me a chance to play, to get better. And just give you an example, when Wayne was up here, I remember the first time I saw him playing, he came into the game after it started, and a buddy I was sitting with had seen him play, and he said, this guy's an ace, and he was. And I was more of the finesse type pitcher. More often than that, I heard the other team go, why the hell aren't we hitting this guy? Okay? And in a way, that's a motivation when you can get guys out when they think they should be hitting you. I was lucky to grow up in Minto at a time where there were lots of guys. We all wanted to go play and win, and we went all over the place. My career with them didn't start off so well. I don't know if the guys remember, but I had played with Pringles Pirates. I came over to Minto. The first game we played against was Pringles. I lost 14-0. Not a great start. I hope nobody else remembers that. Another time, just to tell you how supportive the guys were, we're playing in provincials and we played against Gimli, and I got whacked all over the place. We lost like 16-3, and but the guys afterwards we were joking around about it. There's no sense worrying about it after the game's over. Luckily, it rained. The tournament got postponed a week. We got to play Gimli again the next weekend. We beat them 11-1. The Gimli guys were asking if I practiced all week. You know, I managed the team for quite some time in terms of arranging tournaments, and I dragged those guys everywhere. I'd hear of a tournament in North Dakota, Northern Ontario, Flin Flon, we went several times there, Saskatchewan, everywhere. So I was very fortunate to have a group of guys that were willing to play like that. And, you know, they're still supporting me. I have about 4 or 5 tables of friends out there, guys I played with, and they're really the reason I'm getting this honor tonight. I love playing the game. I had great times on and off the field. When Bob was talking about how we spent some of our money, yes, it did go into enjoyment. That was all part of it. This honor is just kind of the icing on the cake. I really appreciate it. It's a tremendous honor, and I'd like to thank everyone very much.
Our last 2 inductees have been teammates and involved in softball since they began playing for the Souris Blues in the early 1970s, and they made a request of the Softball Hall of Fame board to do a combined acceptance speech, first time that's ever happened, and we're more than happy to accommodate them. Many of you in attendance tonight have heard numerous times that baseball should never be heard during this evening's inductions. However, for our next inductee, an exception has to be made. Learning lessons from watching her dad play with the Souris Comets and spending countless hours playing hardball with her brother and his friends in an open field across from her home started Deb Baker on the road to her love for the game of softball. Joining the Souris Blues when she was 13 years old, she developed her shortstop skills playing in the Brandon District League and in numerous weekend tournaments. As a nucleus of local talent remained together for many years, Deb's passion for the game grew, and bigger challenges such as provincial championships, Western Canadians, and Canadian Nationals were faced. Deb attended 4 national championships, 1976 and 1982 with her fellow Souris Blues, and then in 1978 to 1984 as a pickup with the Grant Park Harrow. At the 1977 Canada Summer Games, Deb was a vital part of the Manitoba team. Rhonda Denbo, a former teammate of Deb's as well as a current Hall of Famer, called her a player's player, always encouraging and tremendously supportive of her teammates. In addition to nationals, Deb participating in an amazing 14 Western Canadian Softball Championships. Her most memorable Westerns occurred in 1987 at the Seniors B's when the Souris Blues won silver. In 2002 as a gold medalist with the Smitty's Masters, in 2005 winning gold with Smitty's Open category, and again in 2006 with Westman Magic Open category, where she played with her daughter Kelly, an experience she'll never forget. In addition to her playing, Deb has passed her knowledge of the game on to the younger generations as she assisted with the coaching of her 2 daughters' teams. In her own words, Deb said, "My life has been enriched tremendously through playing and coaching this great game." Our next inductee is being inducted in the all-around category. Her involvement in softball covers all aspects of the game as a player, coach, and administrator. Bev Neufeld got involved with softball because her mom played, her dad coached, and her little sister was the bat girl. And since she was going to be dragged along anyways, she might as well give it a try. She began playing ball at 10 years of age, but her competitive softball career began in 1974 when at the age of 14 she joined the Souris Blues. Bev Neufeld's natural athletic abilities helped her to develop into an exceptionally strong second baseman and aided her team in competing at the highest levels of competition. She competed 5 times at the Nationals, 1976 and 1985 with her Souris Blues teammates, as well as a pickup with Grant Park in 1978, 79, and 82. In addition, Bev also competed in 13 Western Canadian Championships. Bev and the rest of the Souris Blues senior ladies fastball team was inducted into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame in 2006. A former teammate of Bev's describes her as a very intense, highly skilled individual and a true student of the game. In the early 1990s, a different aspect of the game started to interest Bev. She was found coaching her daughter's teams and organizing and playing for a number of Brandon teams. In 2003 and again in 2005, Softball Manitoba selected Bev to be the assistant coach of Team Manitoba competing at the Western Canada Summer Games. Serving once again as an assistant coach, Bev helped lead her daughter's team at the Midget Western Canadians. Her previous coaching experiences were a natural progression to her selection as head coach of Team Manitoba for the 2007 Western Canada Games and again for the 2009 Manitoba team at the Canada Games this summer. In addition, she's been a tireless worker at the executive level in Westman. She undertook the role of chairperson for the Midget Nationals in 1995 and resumed the role again in 1997 for the Canada Games, both of which were held in Brandon. Somewhere throughout this time, she became a fully certified Level 3 softball coach and a Level 2 umpire. As you can see, she's played an integral part in all areas of our sport, showing leadership, commitment, and passion. Bev Neufeld is a very worthy recipient. It's now my pleasure to ask Deb Baker, being inducted as an athlete, Bev Neufeld being inducted in the all-around category, to come forward and be inducted into the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame.
Sucks to be short. We are honored to be in the presence of all the other inductees, both past and present, who are members of the Softball Hall of Fame. We want to congratulate each and every one of you. It is truly an honor. It is also ironic, but very special, that we are being inducted on the very same night. Deb and I have been teammates forever, best friends forever, lived together through university, and stood up at each other's weddings.
So now you might understand why we decided we would like to do this together. It just wouldn't be right not having her beside me. Sincere thanks goes out to the host committee, to Manitoba Softball, the Hall of Fame committee, and of course to our nominator and former coach, Gladwin Scott. We want to send our deepest gratitude to all our coaches, managers, and fans from the many teams we played for, in particular the Sirs Blues, the Canada Games team way back when, both Smitty's Senior Open and Masters teams, and more recently the Westman Magic Open team. The years of competitive play and lifelong friendships have enriched our lives tremendously. We truly appreciate all the time and effort you dedicated to us over the years, and that even includes after in the beer gardens, where the games were replayed many times, and yet a few more of life's lessons were learned there.
Get that for me again. We both have lived our lives with three passions: family, friends, and softball. To us, they go hand in hand. We grew up at the ballpark, lived at the ballpark, and you can still find us at the ballpark. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I hadn't been conceived at the ballpark. We would like to thank our parents for the passion they passed on to us, a passion they continue now through the support of their grandchildren.
As we round out our playing careers, Bev and I are very proud of the work the Westman Softball Association has done. It has been instrumental in developing our daughters into talented softball players, who we hope will pay it forward in the future. Thank you so much to the people who are the driving force in this area. It enabled me the unique opportunity, as Bruce mentioned, to play in an open Western Canadian with my daughter Kelly when she was just 15. A very special thank you to my mom and dad, sister, brother, husband, and daughters for all the time and support over the years. You've followed me far and wide, and I want you to know how much it has meant to me to have you there on the sidelines. In my opinion, there could not be a better family outing than at the ballpark.
You didn't get that for me. Sorry. We all have many stories we could talk about for hours, and memories that we cherish. Memories that will be with me forever and touch my heart are those that involve friends and family. I am most proud to say that that I have had my dad and husband as coaches. I had my mom and my sister as a teammate. This past summer, I also had my daughter as a teammate. And guess who was offering support from the sidelines? My mom and dad, in-laws, my son, and my sisters. That feeling of family and passion for softball still lives on. I would like to thank my mom and dad, George and Jean Morrison, for always being there, and also my husband, Phil, and kids, Ash and Jeff, for all their continued support, because I spend more time at the ballpark than I do at home. They all understand my passion for the game, and without their support, this would not be possible. Yeah, sorry.
To conclude, we would like to respond to an email question that was recently sent to us, and it was very timely for tonight. The question asked, what would you want to be remembered for when retiring from softball? So I'd like to answer that through parts of a poem that sum up many of the beliefs about the game that Bev and I have. Got a Kleenex?
No.
Winning's nice. It's a good feeling, like the whole world is yours. But it passes, this feeling. And what lasts is what you've learned. And what you learn about is life. That's what sports is all about, life. There's no telling what'll turn up. There's no telling how you'll do. Too much depends on chance, on how the ball bounces. It's life that the game's all about, because every game is life, and life is a game, a serious one. But it's what you do with serious things. You do your best. You take what comes and you run with it. Winning's fun, sure, but winning is not the point. Wanting to win is the point. Not giving up is the point. Never being satisfied with what you've done. Never letting up. Never letting anyone down is the point. Play to win, sure, but lose like a champion, because it's not winning that counts. What counts is trying. Hopefully, Bev and I came to mind for you somewhere in the words of this poem. We would like to thank you for honoring us tonight.
Thank you.
Just want to have Murray Blight, our host committee chairman for tonight, to say last few words for the evening. Murray.
Thanks, Bruce. Once again, congratulations to all the inductees. In the memories, especially Dave Shyiak's remarks about his journey in softball. I mean, if anyone, I'm sure many know Shyiak. I mean, I brought him into Braun in 1978 with West Band Merchants. And I mean, if there's someone to be heard, it's Shyiak. But nevertheless, as the two gals up here said, and I believe, if I recollect Bev Neufeld's conversation, she's off to see her daughter's championship tomorrow. Correct, Bev, if I'm right? Phil, am I right in that respect? Championship taking place on the road with softball once again. One thing that has been mentioned this evening is, the Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame. I think we owe it to these volunteers, these people that make this Manitoba Softball Hall of Fame in existence. So it's my pleasure, it's my honor to acknowledge and ask them to stand up. President Sharon Martin, past President Allan Sharp, Vice President Evelyn Holinsky, Treasurer Grace Bouchard, Directors Steve Berkson, Kathleen Penner, Wendell Keeler, Don Robbins, and yours truly. That's your committee. That's why you have a team background here. Just some reminders before we go different directions. Memorabilia, if you are taking it back this evening, see Trudy, because we have to document, or if you want it to be going with the Hall of Fame, again, there's the documentation to make sure it's done. The auction prizes will be numbers, I believe I see they're posted. So again, there's host committee representatives at the back. And last but not least, on behalf of the host committee team, we thank you for attending this evening. Perhaps maybe we as a team will debrief and say, 2012 will be our next Westman Brandon event. Thank you.